Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani. This is America's Mayor Live. Live from, no, not New York. Live from Palm Beach, the winter White House. Everyone anxious. Several calls today. President Trump coming down this weekend. President Trump coming down. President, can you get me to see him? President Trump coming down this weekend. Can you get me to see him? You know, I try not to do that. I feel, remember, I mean, I don't want to make too much of this, but he's a personal friend and I worry about him. A couple of weeks ago, Dr. Maria, I said, well, maybe it'll come better from you, Maria. So she went up to him, she called him aside and said, you know, we're worried about you. You're working too hard. And he was very touched by it, but then totally disagreed. Now, it's hard for me to do it because he says to me, well, you do the same thing. And I don't think I do quite as much. I don't think so. But then when my friends talk to me, they say, yes, you do. But in any event, it's been remarkable what he's accomplished. And I'm so glad I did note it on the earlier show. And many of you watched that. Some of you don't. The two polls that came out from the communist anti-American, American-hating networks, CBS and CNN, have him in the 70s and 60% for favorability and the speech being an excellent presidential speech. The negatives are down to almost nothing. I mean, these are the people who probably can't read, can't write, and are completely brainwashed by the Democrat communists. And there wasn't a poll on what did you think of the Democrats? That I would like to have seen, and I would like to have seen it, and maybe there is one. I'll go searching around for it. How does it affect your view of voting for Democrats? I wonder what this will do for the overall Democrat-Republican ballot that does have some reflection on what kind of change there'll be in the Congress. Now, it's too long a haul between here and the congressional elections. And the president is off to as good a start as you could possibly have as a president, particularly given where he's coming from. He's not like getting, when they say, oh, he's getting a honeymoon, but he's not getting a honeymoon. You listen to Rachel Maddow? Did you listen to that crazy Wallace woman? They thought it was a terrible speech, awful speech. He's exploiting people. Well, every damn president since Ronald Reagan did exactly the same thing. Clinton wasn't exploiting people when he put out people that he rescued or people that he saved, or he brought back people. He used the governor of New Mexico to do it, who created quite a reputation for doing it, who I considered a friend. Democrat, yeah. But when he was ambassador to the UN, we would go to Yankee games together, a Republican and a Democrat. And it wasn't Philadelphia where you have to fight with each other. And there were things I certainly disagreed with many of his positions in the UN. I thought they were ridiculous. But I thought he was masterful at obtaining hostages. He did some of the things that Trump did. He would get them for as little price as possible. And you contrast it with Biden, who basically put America in grave jeopardy every time he did it. And then when his people were brought back, often Clinton would bring him to a State of the Union speech, and Republicans would stand up almost to a person, if not to, and applaud that. I was good enough to be the subject of that in 2001 with George Pataki. We were mentioned during a speech to the nation right after 9/11 by President Bush. He flew us down on Air Force 2, I think, and brought us into a secret base and brought us in and had us as a surprise. And well, we weren't much of a surprise when we came out and sat there. And then at a certain point of the speech, he mentioned us, and we stood and we were applauded. The whole Congress stood up. And it was effective. It was effective in bringing us together. And that it wasn't just George Bush doing it. It was the Democrats understanding that this is bigger than our disagreements. It's bigger, but not forget our disagreement. It's bigger than the kickbacks we get and the loyalty to our party and the fundraising we get. A lot of the ways this is done is somebody like Schumer, who is a complete pig at this, will go around and tell them, we're not getting any money from the party if you break with the party on men being involved with women's sports. I mean, somebody should have grabbed the punk, put him up against a wall, and said, "You're not going to tell me what to do, you shit. I wasn't elected by you. I was elected by the people of, I don't know, Illinois." The people of Illinois, by 50% among Democrats and 80% by everybody else, think what your position is immoral, ridiculous, insane. And I know you're a Jew, but what the hell happened to Genesis? The same thing that happened to Israel. You're just double-crossing it. But they don't have men on the Democrat Party, and they don't have women of substance. You don't let somebody determine your conscience if you're a person of substance. It cannot be that every single one of those Democrats didn't want to stand, or if that is true, they have become a party of non-human beings. That's not true. They're a party of cowards. Who believe in nothing. Yes, they do. Rob said they believe in nothing. They believe in themselves. Many of them believe in communism, and many of them believe in one world. None of them believe in the United States to a sufficient degree to be representing it. So President Trump also is demonstrating over and over again that many of these things could have been done by Biden, but he didn't do it for political reasons, which in many cases would get people killed, tortured, like Fogel. I can actually see why they didn't stand for Fogel, because in it was quite clear that Biden at any time in 4 years could have gotten Fogel back and didn't, because he basically did it by just going like that. Now, he also did it because he was asked to do it by Mr. Fogel's mother, who's 97, 98, and a very, very interesting and touching story. She met him right before his speech in Butler. In fact, she was the last person he talked to before he went up on the stage. And shortly after that speech began, he was almost killed. And after it was over, he met with her again and said he was even more determined. Then he met with her again and talked to her on the phone. I met with her. And she said to me, "Will the president," I mean, she couldn't believe that a president would help her because Biden had been such a bastard. So she said, and I don't know that she used that word. She's a very nice lady, but it came pretty close to it about Biden. And she said, "Will the president do it?" I said, "Ma'am, I don't have to talk to him. I'm not going to have to talk to him. He's going to do it." There are a couple of situations like that where people came up to me when I was at events who had made promises to. Every single one of them is kept. This is not a phony politician like Hillary Clinton, like Bill Clinton, like the entire New York City congressional delegation, New York State congressional delegation. Anybody who didn't stand for that little boy, for the kid who got into West Point, for the kid who lost her brain function because of the insane policy of men participating in women's sports. Anybody who didn't stand up for that really doesn't understand America. They don't understand America. Republicans uniformly stood up when Democrats presented similar pictures of people they saved, people they helped. They wouldn't have thought of not standing up for that. They may have booed him, although I don't remember. I remember one incident with Obama when Congressman Wilson lost his temper and called him a liar because he was lying about Obamacare. Should have done it, and the Republican Party spoke out against it, and none of the other Republicans walked out with him, nor did they stop standing up and clapping when Obama announced something that they truly agreed with. I mean, anytime a Democrat president would announce he's going to put more money into the military, Republicans get up, no matter how much they hate the Democratic president. Very seriously wrong, and I do believe it's the nail in the coffin of the Democratic Party. I have maintained for many, many years that the Democratic Party should disappear. First of all, the name should disappear. It's a name that evokes slavery. And if we're doing this symbolic stuff, you can't do any of it without doing that. All the rest of it's hypocritical. So it should be renamed and reformed. And the people who are leading it should have the good sense to get out, because they're leading it into defeat. And they have turned it into a party that a majority of Americans believe is anti-American, not just different ideology, which is the way I looked at it in the past, but I believe that they are deliberately, in many cases, because of the money that China tosses around, or inadvertently, because they're cowards working for the enemies of the United States. The suicide bomber who was arrested with great ease, indicating to everyone involved in it that if the FBI had been sent there 3 years ago, they could have arrested him. Remember, Steve Naku, who was the Gold Star father of one of the Marines killed because of Biden, was arrested last year for interrupting Biden's speech, because Biden wasn't doing a damn thing to arrest the person who killed his son. And because uniformly, or almost uniformly, I can't speak for all of them, I can speak for ones I talked to, about 7, they are completely convinced that their children would be alive if we hadn't fraudulently elected Joe Biden, if you in the press hadn't participated in the fraud of hiding the hard drive and getting Joe Biden elected president, if you in the press hadn't participated in the hard drive, in the conspiracy of hiding his mental disability, and if you in the press hadn't completely prostituted yourself to cover a lifetime of crime, all of which could have been easily uncovered and reported, because it wasn't hard for me to find it. And I'm not a reporter, and I didn't have a grand jury. If I were back being an assistant U.S. attorney, Joe Biden would not have spent 4 years in the White House. He would have spent 4 years in prison. And so would any number of his family members. We didn't just have a perverted president. We had a perverted family in the White House. And they perverted agencies of government. The FBI, the IRS, the Secret Service. You trust that investigation of the Trump assassination, on which we'll have something to say very, very shortly? Oh, by the way, the guy arrested was a major figure in ISIS Khorasan. They are one of the people who benefited from the $85 billion worth of arms left behind at Bagram Air Base. Now, in the time that Biden let him go free because he didn't want to arrest him for political purposes, how many people did Mohammed Sharifullah, how many did Mohammed Sharifullah kill? I don't know. I think somewhere when you go upstairs, Joe, that's going to be on the big book. Because you only didn't arrest him to save your sorry little ass. Now, the Democrats did show that this is not a physical disability, the inability to clap. It isn't like they can't go. Because when the country that they care for much more than the United States was mentioned, the country that has been considered for the last 10 to 20 years one of the most corrupt in the world, the one in which it is still considered way beyond the average for corruption, and the one in which none of the corruption that we know about has been solved or uncovered, and we have a president that is actively covering up crime, president of that country, Zelensky, actively covering up crimes at the major level of both governments, and also with superior knowledge that could be used to recover hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars for his country from his fellow citizens that he's covered.
Billions of dollars to support Ukraine's defense with no security, with no anything. Do you want to keep it going for another 5 years? Yeah, you would say Pocahontas says yes. $2,000 people are being killed every single week.
Well,
More than that.
let's cut that off and let's focus on what that was. For a group that didn't show any ability to clap for anything good for the United States, or for any of the heroic Americans that just on a humanitarian basis you would support, they clapped for the money we gave to Ukraine, and then Pocahontas played right into his hands by clapping when he said you want the war to continue for 5 more years. Well, Pocahontas, if that's the case, you're a murderer. There is not a single possibility in the world that Ukraine can expel Russia from Ukraine without either creating a serious risk of a nuclear war. It is the reason that your party didn't give them the arms to win. They gave them the arms to defend themselves, maybe. Late, constantly too little, and constantly after Russia got what it wanted. It was a sorry, sick conspiracy. If you're going to fight the war, you fight to win. If not, you don't fight the war, you negotiate. And then 1 million people are alive. But if you fight the war, hundreds of people become billionaires on our side and on their side, who have been raping Ukraine for 20 years. And that includes Zelensky, who's very much a part of that. To pretend that these people have the best interests of Ukraine at heart is an unholy conspiracy. And I'm sure, the Ukrainian people got all excited about Zelensky standing up for them. I hope they realize that all he promises them is the same kind of government that all their prior presidents gave them but one. A completely crooked government. The big debate was, is it more crooked than Russia or not? Well, I don't know. If you're involved in the crooked, it doesn't matter. A lot of people say Russia is more crooked because it's much bigger. Actually, on a gross basis, Russia is more crooked. What does that have? 10 times more people? 5 times more people? On a per capita basis, there's no question that Ukraine is. And I'm going to tell you, in talking this week to people, including some that were here, that I went over this, I just wanted to check my hypothesis. Now, I've done business in Ukraine, not in Russia. And I can tell you that there's a better chance of escaping corruption in Russia than in Ukraine, for the simple reason that Russia, it's not any better. They're both completely immoral. They come out of the same tradition where you're entitled to steal as much as you want when you're in government. Even the so-called Ukrainian patriots are thieves. Somehow they rationalize 10 billion comes in to help with the war. We can take 5. 5 can go to the war. 10 million comes in to help the people. We can take it all, which is why it's a poor country. They've gotten the resources to be a very rich country, except it's gone to 30 or 40 organized crime oligarchs, one of which made Zelensky a multimillionaire and billionaire and got him elected, funded his election. And now I have gone deeper into it because he eventually double-crossed Kolomoisky, put him in jail of sorts. And I did some research with the sources I have there, and he's involved with another group of oligarchs. Zelensky is. The guy is alleged to have mansions in America, elsewhere. I don't know if that's true. I wouldn't be shocked. He spends his entire time with people who have raped his people. These are people that if you were running Ukraine, you'd have him in jail for the good of your people. and you take everything they have, their houses, their boats, and you give it back to the people of Ukraine. And when you don't do it, you're a rotten, miserable traitor and coward. And that's why you act the way you do, Zelensky. And it is disgraceful that people respect you and completely counterproductive for the good of your own people. I care about your people more than you do. Definitely. Because when I worked there honestly. I made exactly what I needed to get the job done, and I produced some pretty good facilities for the Ukrainian people, one of which has withstood the Russian onslaught. And I worry about them, and I care about them, and I try to think of the solutions for them, not how to make you bums, crooks, just like the mafia that I prosecuted, richer. All you think about, you little shrimp, is how much money you're going to make. It was a disgrace. You were sitting in that office as a representative of your people. What are the American people going to think when you sit there looking like a homeless bum? What, this was your Hollywood idea of some kind of hero? Maybe that's right. Hollywood is so perverted. Maybe you do. Maybe, a 4'2" hero. I mean, I really would have wished that you and Vance had gotten up, and Vance had been allowed. You'd make some kind of an immunity pact, and you could have like a little match. Or how about we stage a match? Trump might like this, between you and the mayor of Kyiv, Vitaly Klitschko. You and Vitaly getting along? Now, if you want a guy who's straight in Ukraine, think about the former heavyweight champion of the world, who throughout all this has run Kyiv. Now, I will tell you, he was a client of mine as a lawyer, so I know him and have kept in contact with him, and I know his principles, and I know he's. A lot of these guys go into Ukrainian politics and they're independently wealthy and they steal anyway. It's not a guarantee like it is pretty much in America. With him, it's a guarantee. Man's a patriot, loves America, loves Ukraine. He's half Russian, but he has been a Ukrainian patriot throughout. As there are many of the Ukrainians end up going one way or the other, depending on their, to a large extent, depending on whether they were exposed to the West or they lived in the western part of Ukraine. Now it's changing. Putin. One thing Putin has done is part of Ukraine that he doesn't have, which did contain certain Russian areas, has become now very much anti-Russian, as you would imagine, given the tactics that he used. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order...
Welcome back to America's Mayor Live. You know that we have supported, since September 11, Tunnel to Towers. It has been probably one of the highlights of my life to be involved with them. One of the things I consider one of the purest and best things that I do. Not proud of myself. I would not tell you that other than the fact that I want to persuade you to do it. And I'm going to tell you a story, but I want you to, as soon as I finish that story, I want you to sign up for $11 a month to t2t.org. And I'm going to tell you that you are going to feel that you've been rewarded for what they're going to give you back for it. Well, Allie Dwyer and her 3 sons lost their hero, Stephen. Stephen was serving our country in the United States Army. It was his calling, and he was flying helicopters. That was his passion. Stephen died in a Black Hawk helicopter crash over the Mediterranean Sea. He was awarded the Bronze Star Medal, the Meritorious Service Medal, and the Air Medal with combat device, among many others, for his service. Allie says Stephen will always be the love of her life and her boys' real-life superhero that they're proud to call their daddy. Thanks to friends like you, Tunnel to Towers helped this family with a mortgage-free home, giving them security and hope in their darkest hours. Tunnel to Towers provides mortgage-free homes for families of our country's fallen heroes and builds specially adapted smart homes for catastrophically injured heroes. The foundation is also committed to eradicating homelessness among our veterans and helping our nation keep its vow to never forget 9/11. Help more families like the Dwyers. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at t2t.org. That's T, the number 2t.org. Now, let's do it now. Now. Don't put it off. $11, do it. I'm telling you, when you go to sleep tonight, you're going to feel like you did your part as an American to take care of our most important citizens, including our politicians. And I'm not even talking about the ones that shouldn't be our politicians. I mean, all of us. We do something important, no doubt about it. But they put their lives on the line every day, every single day. So let's move on beyond this. Although I do want to look at I do want to take one look at that guy, Al Green, who I think goes to, as I said last night, I haven't been able to confirm this yet. I believe that he goes to the same tailor as Zelensky, Al Green. And he definitely is a far left guy who, when you add up his views and his votes, is either a communist, anti-American, or pretends to be. He definitely is a very poorly brought up pig and bum, because he's the only Democrat who really acted like he was a Neanderthal. You know, he acted like a Neanderthal. Wouldn't you say that? That was Neanderthal action. So let's watch this disgraceful pig from, believe it or not, Texas. Jeez, you don't think Texas would produce some piece of junk like this. Let's watch what he does. Well, that was on Tuesday. We've all seen that where he gets thrown out.
We're talking today. You want today?
I want him showing up with his posse of pigs. Let's see who are the pig supporters.
On this vote, the yeas are 224. The nays are 198, with 2 answering present. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The House will come to order. The House will come to order. Shh. Will Representative Green present himself to the will?
Good. No, let's show it. It's worth showing.
By its adoption of House Resolution 189, the House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker. The House has come to order. The House has come to order.
Come sing with us for our cause. Our virtue signal and bullshit cause.
Can they hear me?
Yeah.
Notice the
House has
number
come to
of
order. Clear the
people
well, please. Clear
with
the
him.
well.
Those
The
are
House
members
has
of
to
Congress,
continue its business.
largely, who are equally disrespectful, equally anti-American, some worse. These are people who are the reason for why America is in the situation that it is now.
Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the House will stand
And they
in
are
recess,
using
subject to
a
the call of
song
the
that was
chair.
sacred to the civil rights movement to equate civil rights in America to their right to interrupt a president giving a speech and to yell and scream in the well of Congress, to do generally what the January 6th people are alleged to have done. Now, why he wasn't prosecuted for this, I don't know. He did obstruct a government proceeding, but I guess you can get arrested for that if you're 10 blocks away from the White House and you just happen to be, a supporter of Trump and be there on January 6th. I don't know if he pulled a fire alarm. He probably doesn't know how to do it. I don't think he's the smartest guy in Congress. Well,
President Trump called him a very low IQ individual, and he says that we should demand that Representative Green take an IQ test.
oh, please.
Love that.
What do you want to strain the guy?
He's an embarrassment to the Democrats, says
But
President
the
Trump.
real
Well, I don't know
question
if he's an
is,
embarrassment.
doesn't he look an awful lot like the Neanderthal man?
Doesn't he do?
Well,
doesn't he do
and doesn't he
commercials
act
for
like him?
Geico? Doesn't he do Geico commercials? That guy
Does he do it on the side? Does he do Geico commercials on the side?
I thought I saw him on the Geico.
That would be an ethical violation if he did that.
Right. Well, wouldn't he have to?
He'd have to disclose it, but he doesn't look like he's the kind of guy that discloses things like that.
Right. Right.
Do we have?
We're trying to bring the Geico man.
Oh, have they gone? Maybe they wiped those all out.
Right. They might have gotten rid
They
of
might have
him.
wiped it out because he is he any good? I mean, I've never seen the Geico Neanderthal commercial. Is he any good at it?
He's
He
got
was
pretty
very
good
popular.
skills, pretty good Neanderthal skills. I think.
Well, that may not be him then because he didn't have many skills. It didn't look like he was like even a straight walker.
Right.
That guy. He looked like he had a little problems walking and.
Right. He was kicked out pretty early, right?
Yeah, nobody else did it because they showed they were going to kick him out. So then instead they decided to insult cancer victims, heroes who saved people's lives. They basically sat down for everything good about America, and then applauded having the Ukraine war go on for 5 more years.
Right.
That's the big issue in the Democrat Party. Can the Ukraine war go on for 5 more years? Now, why would there be any reason that the Ukraine war would go on for five more years, except for them to make money? Do you know? Do you have any idea that big liberal left-wing Pocahontas is worth millions of dollars? Did you know that? How could she possibly? When you look at her, she's sure to make it by modeling. So how did she make it? She's been a teacher and in politics all her life. I don't know. I'm just raising it. I don't know if it's the Pelosi insider trading scheme, or it's the McConnell get it from a Chinese communist, or I have a feeling it's not, as my Jewish friends say, kosher.
Could it be quid pro quo?
Ooh.
Ooh. Remember that word.
What the hell is going on at Barnard College? They don't want to stop at Columbia, do they?
No, Mayor, we might have another road trip on our hands.
Well, you think all this does is show how what great predictors we were. We had a
That's right, we
big
did.
dispute going on among, inside dispute. Does Columbia hate Jews more than Harvard? Even some Jewish people where they wanted to know. So Ted and I went about doing our own scientific survey. We went up to Harvard, we went to Columbia, and we came back. And I'm not saying anything good about Harvard,
Right. No.
but Columbia's got them beat big time.
Right.
I think that was the Harvard one.
No, this is Barnard College. I have it on.
Oh, this is Barnard College. Now
Sorry, I'm pronouncing
well, Barnard College is Columbia. Don't get all confused. It used to be when we had things like male and female colleges, Columbia was the male college, and they used to call this the sister school. Every one of the Ivy League schools at one time was all male. You wouldn't believe that, right? And they all had a sister school, which gave women the opportunity for an equal, separate but equal, separate but equal education. And unlike the double cross of the blacks by the Democrat Party, pretty much an equal education. You got trained just as well to be a Marxist, American-hating opponent in Barnard as you did, or Sarah Lawrence, as you did at Columbia. In fact, I actually thought these were even better. These women's schools were even better Marxist training grounds. A lot of money from China, a lot of money from laundered communist causes, a lot of money from pro-Islamic extremist groups.
So it is an all women's college.
No, oh, God forbid. You'd never have an all women's college.
You can't do that anymore?
Oh, well, I think you can. There are some all male
aren't there up in the Northeast?
Very few. This is now men and women.
Okay.
Now, why? I mean, I'm sorry. With me, I don't. Even though it has men and women, I tend to think if it's part of Columbia and you're a guy, you go to Columbia. If you're a woman, you go to. And I just wonder what kind of guy you are if you go to what was an all-girls college. But that's very unfair.
I mean, well, it might make some sense as a young man
not only that,
to go to a school with a lot of women.
We can't
Not
tell.
these women.
We can't tell who they are because they're all wrapped in Yasser Arafat. They're all wrapped in Yasser Arafat
Let's get the volume on this.
cloth.
Is that supposed to be President Trump?
No, so
Who's the Muppet?
the effigy they have, that's actually the dean of students.
For the
And
school.
if we just really quickly toggle to that, when they're lynching the dean of students for the wrongful expulsion of Palestinian protesters, it looked pretty.
So they're following. They're following one of the greatest allies of the Democrat Party, the Ku Klux Klan, and using their method of execution, lynching. I also should say, as an Italian American, I'm getting nervous because we were number 2. And I have to tell you, if they come after me, I live in Florida now that does not have stringent gun laws. And if you think I'd be reluctant,
Oh, man.
try me. you
Reluctant.
bastards.
Stand your ground.
Yeah, reluctant. I don't know.
Try me, you bastards.
Maybe not the opposite of reluctant, but you're
Be careful. I know the law, but you put my life in jeopardy, or somebody I love or care about, or anybody, somebody I see on the street,
that's right.
you're gone.
There's still some Daniel Pennies left in this world.
Had dinner with him.
I know. I
2
was
weeks ago.
Missed that one.
Oh, was that
That must
great.
have been nice.
What a great guy. You think of him as a shy guy. He actually is quite talkative, quite
Yeah.
smart, and he's doing very well as a financial advisor. A lot of people thought, oh, they just gave him the job. This guy's really sharp.
I mean, yeah, to get through what he had to get through, even for these Marines and that. I know some people like to make jokes in that, but there's definitely got to be some sort of level of intelligence to get
I'll tell
through
you the
those
truth.
things.
What I think happened was his lawyer, quite correctly, kept him quiet.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
So he came across as
Yeah,
shy, which was brilliant,
Yeah.
which is what you should do. Very few lawyers accomplish that with their clients. I did it with Trump. You notice, when I Representative Jared put me in there to kind of cut down on the tweets, and you see what a good job I did of that. I'm going to tell you, not all your clients listen to you. So the Barnard protest, Barnard.
Well, that was my
It's
question,
BA.
Mayor. It is Barnard?
Barnard.
I was saying it right then.
Yeah, it's like a barn.
Huh.
Barn, art. Maybe I think that's the history of this. It was originally a barn,
literally a barn.
where the animals went to shit.
And not much.
They
has
still
changed.
got some. I don't know if we can say that, but yeah, we still got some crazies up in there.
Oh,
Barnard
you guys
College.
still have animals at Barnard
Yeah.
College? Is that what you're about to say?
Well, did you see the animals shitting?
Well, they told.
They still do. You didn't see them in the back there shitting?
Well, that's
Whoa!
Yeah.
That's the effigy. That's the dean of
Now,
students.
why shouldn't the people who did that be expelled?
How is that accept? Yeah.
It's okay to call them animals when that's going on.
Oh, you have to let them express themselves,
No,
man.
they're fine, which means you can't prosecute them. Doesn't mean you can't expel them.
What does that say about the dean of students?
Being a student
lady.
at Columbia is not a civil right. Being allowed to express your opinion that the dean of students
Should be hung?
executed, to me, is protected speech. Now, many people in the hate speech movement will tell you you should go to jail for that. And in much of Europe, you do go to jail for that now. I personally think that's very dangerous. I think it's very dangerous. I think we were much better off when we practiced the theory that sticks and stones can break my bones, but names can never hurt me. That was a childish expression of the philosophy that has made this country great. That was a childish expression of Madison and Hamilton and Jefferson and any others that are much smarter than us. The idea is the only way you protect speech is by protecting the speech that you disagree with the most. And in a country of decent people who, when they disagree with each other, respect each other, that's a perfect protection. In a country that's been made into a very substantial Marxist enterprise, it doesn't work. They can do and say anything they want, and they'll violate your free speech and put you in jail. And their compatriots all over Europe are doing that in degrees that are shocking. This is a worldwide Marxist movement of which America is part. This is going on in Great Britain. It's going on in Germany. It was going on in Italy until Giorgia Meloni came along. Going on in France. So in those countries, at least 2 out of 3 of them, that image would require prosecuting the person. But just like in America, where prosecution is not fair and equitable, and we have a 2-tiered system, no. That wouldn't that they were expressing the thoughts that the left-wing governments of Great Britain, France, and Germany agree with. Had they had a statue of Zelensky up and they hung him for being a crook, they'd all go to jail. And that's why you can't say, okay, put him in jail for focusing on one side, right? But not for the other. It's either if you string up public officials, it's a jailable offense. And if you don't, it's attributed to free speech that we can rebut with speech because they haven't literally hurt anybody yet. And under classical American law, until it was perverted, that would not be enough to incite a riot. I'm not going to complicate it. Had a riot then ensued, you might be able to go back to that and say it incited a riot. You might. But we have to be careful when our emotions get involved and we look at that and we say, put him in jail, put him in jail. Always perform the following exercise if you want to be an American, a really good American. Say, suppose it was switched around and one of our people got a little out of control, but we want the same thing to happen. If you can say that, you're consistent. If you can't, you're like the Democrats. So I don't know what's going to happen with Barnard. We've got a district attorney in New York who let all of the prior protesters out, even though they burned down buildings. But that happens when you have a Soros. The DA of New York works for Soros, not the people of New York. He is a complete corrupt slob who can't even try a case. His most famous case was tried by other people, and he sat there like somebody watching afternoon soap operas, and probably with less comprehension. I have no respect for the man in any way. I don't respect big mouth prosecutors who can't go to court and prosecute their cases. I prosecuted the most difficult case in the 4.5 years that I was U.S. attorney myself. And I took it over at the last minute because there was some jeopardy to it. And I gave up a case that I had worked on for 5 years and that I could have won by just playing tape recordings. And I did it because I had to make a decision, because this case we could have lost and it would have hurt the reputation of our office, and it would have extended the reputation of the crooked New York Democrat Party, which has almost continuously been in existence for 150 years. And I said, if I lost that case, I never forgive myself. And I always would change lawyers and put in the best trial lawyer when it got to the trial stage, because some people are good investigators and some are good trial lawyers. Didn't make me the most popular U.S. attorney, made me the most successful. And I looked around for who would prosecute that case, and now you're going to get maybe a little upset. And I said, who's the best trial lawyer in his office? Who can really cross-examine? Me. Who broke a congressman down and got him to confess on a witness stand? Any of them? Me. Who never lost a prosecution? Me. And who understands this case, because I put the theory of the circumstantial evidence together, had actually committed it to a chart? Me. So I better just change and go prosecute this case. Because they were horrible, terrible criminals who just were carrying on the destruction of my city, which goes back to Boss Tweed, for whom the Democrats have a courthouse. When they took the statue of Thomas Jefferson out of the city chamber, it went past the Boss Tweed courthouse. In other words, we exiled Thomas Jefferson, but not Boss Tweed. And we can't exile Boss Tweed because they wouldn't be able to train young Democrats to cheat and steal. And the intricate bribery schemes that sometimes can amount to billions and millions of dollars, and do. Probably absolutely happened without any doubt in New York. Now we'll see if they can find it. It happened with PPP during COVID. It happened with homelessness. And it definitely happened with the overpriced contracts for illegal aliens. I have no doubt about it. And we'll find out what kind of U.S. attorney we have. And we'll see if he can resurrect the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York office, which hid Epstein files for years. That only came out because a federal judge ordered it out. And the president ordered it out. And the order is, and let's see if it happens, because if not, they should go to jail for violating an order like poor Mr. Navarro was put in leg irons for, except it wasn't real. If there's a single redaction of any damn name in this report, it violates both the order of the president, who is their boss, the commander-in-chief, and an order of a federal court, which is contempt. And boy, people went in jail for contempt on such specious grounds that if they don't do it, we're going to have a lot more work ahead to try to create a fair and impartial system of justice. But this should be on its way to contempt against the assistant U.S. attorneys who held it back. I got a little bit of a lighthearted story for you. Thieves will go to any length. You agree with that, Ted?
Yeah.
You agree with that, Stephen?
I don't want to encourage this sort of activity. But
yeah.
I want to ask Rob, but I think when I said Pocahontas, he decided to dress up like an Indian. Are you trying to get on the good side of Pocahontas?
I came to West Palm Beach to get away from the cold up north, and it's cool down here today. It was only 70 degrees.
Look cold. You look like some kind of a retired Indian.
My long sleeves are in the car, and suitcase.
Oh,
I got a blanket wrapped around.
you know, there are
everybody.
people watching us back in Michigan and New York. It's probably like
Right,
10,
our
10
hometowns.
degrees. And
Yeah.
then
Remember,
Giuliani, I thought you were surrounded by tough guys.
I'm complaining
gonna-
about 70 degrees.
You're gonna do a wussy thing on us. Okay. So what do you think of this story? The other day in Orlando, in the great state of Florida, a thief, I don't know how experienced, you know, you have to look at his record to see. But basically,
how
basically, these kinds of thieves are repetitive thieves. You don't get a jewelry thief who does it once for fun. Jewelry thief is a business, and they can make millions. Think about this: Jathan Lawrence Gilder is the guy. He went into a high-end jewelry store, Tiffany, high-end as he can get, right? Not for breakfast, like the movie, but he went in there, Orlando, Florida, and he pretended to be a representative of the Orlando Magic basketball team. Pretty smart, because people think of basketball players as liking bling, right?
Right.
And he said he wanted to buy these things for them. And look, I don't know if it's 2 or 3. I think it's 2. So he got a 4.86 carat set worth of earrings for $160,000. And then he looked at an 8.10 set of diamonds set in a ring for $609,500. And while he was looking at him, the lady, you know, he wanted to look at the lady, moved away. He stuck one in his pocket, and the other disappeared. He stuck the earrings in his pocket, and the other disappeared. And he walked out. They realized what happened, and the police, Orlando police, happened to be a good police department. The Orlando police went and caught him on Interstate 10. And he actually resisted arrest, and they found the earrings. But they couldn't find the big one, the big item, the $609 million ring. Now, I'm going to show you where it was. Take a look. That's it. That's an X-ray of Mr. Gilder. And you see that white thing? That's in his stomach. That's the ring. That's the $609 million ring. Now, I'm sorry. I, of course, am fascinated by crime because I pursued it for most of my life. And it was really my greatest exciting part of my life. I never had one like this. Now, I did have drug dealers that would fill their stomach with all kinds of stuff and kill themselves.
It can't be safe.
The common one was to take the smallest prophylactic you could get, condom you could get, and fill it with, well, it depended. I mean, it usually would be high value stuff. Otherwise, it wasn't worth it. So when heroin was around, it was the best heroin because heroin used to be more expensive. Cocaine used to be more expensive than heroin as we began. Then it went back and forth, supply and demand. I don't remember if there were cases where it snapped and it killed someone.
Yeah.
But I do remember when we got into crack, there were a number of those. In other words, yeah, I think there were some with it would depend. If you had heroin in your stomach and one of the, and they would do 4 or 5 of these, and one of the condoms broke, it can really do damage to you. Whether it kills you or not is going to depend on the strength of the heroin. If it were crack cocaine, however, which is already jacked up, it'll kill you immediately.
What does it do?
You just die. I mean, you go into a little, I mean, if it's a small amount of drugs, you'll go into cardiac arrest. You could be saved. If it's either a large amount of drugs or a small amount that's very powerful, it'll kill you. Now, remember, with heroin, they used to bring it in as very, very powerful 100% proof heroin. Because then you could bring in this much heroin and you can turn it into $5 million. Because this much heroin when you went out on the street, because they would call it cutting heroin, would be that much heroin.
Oh, make more money.
Because I'm not bringing that in is hard, right? But bringing that in for a payday of $10 million is worth it, right? So the one you're going to end up in your stomach is the heroin that'll kill you. Now, even this thing, I mean, it looks like it just made it. Look at the size of it. Can you see the size of it? Oh, I am so annoyed. I mean, obviously, Dr. Maria deserves a vacation because she's the best we got. But I'm going to do the story when she comes back, and she's in a different time zone right now. Otherwise, I would have called it, because I look at this, and I want you to look at it too. Now, I have a picture of it further up in the esophagus. You have it down in the stomach. See, mine is up in the esophagus.
Well, that's how it moves.
Well, it moved. It moved from where I have it. I have it just at about the esophagus meeting the lungs. I don't know if you can come up on mine.
There's a little biology lesson here.
Okay. Now, by the time you get it, it's down either in the lower stomach or entering the intestine. And it looks smaller. I wonder if. So my point is, they do not finish the story. Like, I'm going to tell you, I would be at DEA headquarters. Now, I was 27, 28, 29. And we would sit there until it came out. And then we could make out the warrant.
Oh my gosh, is that going to come out?
Well, since this isn't an illegal
And
contraband,
then every once in a while, we'd have somebody who'd have to rush to Bellevue because it wasn't coming out.
I was going to say.
And it was constricting it. And we had one person who died.
Oh,
but do you think we'll get a discount on this? What was it? Earrings or what was it?
I don't know.
Whoever buys them now.
I mean, they
It
might
does
be
say
worth
set.
more. They might be
When-
worth more because
When they say 8.10 carat set worth 609,500, and it's a ring, do they mean the ring is already put together? Or when they say carat set, that suggests to me that it's put together. Sometimes there'll be multiple diamonds and it's put together in a setting.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they'll transport it as a looking at the size of it, I think it's just the diamonds, not the ring.
Jeez, that can be.
I think it's worth more now, honestly.
Oh, because of the history?
Yeah, it's got a story.
It's definitely got a story. But I would like to know
Notice
that
I have
story.
my ring back.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Hey.
Now, how long did it take that one to pass?
And
Okay, let's look at this ring. This is a diamond ring, nowhere near that value, but I don't think anybody want to put this in his stomach, not worth dying for. But so you put it in your mouth.
Eat that thing.
I think this would come
It
out.
hurt.
But
I don't know. For
It hurt,
600
though. It
grand,
hurt.
I'd
That
do
ain't
it.
breaking down. That's gonna hurt. There's a reason everything goes. through
And
our
of course,
intestines,
with the drugs, they had it in like in a condom, which would make it a little softer against the walls of the. But these are diamonds can.
Diamond, literally.
You can actually take a lot of diamond cutters cut diamonds with diamonds.
Yeah.
Because you can get them so sharp. And
The
that was
hardest
more-
tools are diamond tools.
Yeah. So
Oh,
if you want to know about the ingenuity of the human criminal, I don't know how smart this is, but
I got to give him a little bit of credit. I mean, thankfully, I've never thought of this, which hopefully means I don't have the mind of a thief. But walk in and eat the jewelry, right? Like honestly, I mean,
No.
I'm not
mean it.
recommending that.
Don't do it.
Oh, don't do it. I'm not saying
Number
do
one, they'll catch you.
It. Yeah.
Number two, it could kill you. I mean,
Yeah.
and
So it's not that smart.
what the hell you put in there? You never know. For example, I'll tell you another thing. Diamonds cut very, very. If this diamond is cut in a certain way and it gets up against a wall or something, you're going to have a major bleeding episode.
Yeah, definitely don't do this. However,
Unless you own the ring already, I guess. You know.
yeah, don't steal.
I
Don't
wonder
steal.
how
That's the
often. I wonder
moral-
how.
moral
I
of the
wonder
story.
if this happens in like divorce disputes when the husband wants the ring back and the wife doesn't want to give it back and da 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 da.
Right, and you get some tiny rings. Maybe.
Now, I am an
small.
old-fashioned Italian, and here's what I believe: if you gave a ring, it's gone. Okay, you got to just chalk it up to you were
Really?
in love once and you gave the ring away, or you made a mistake.
So
But you can't be an Indian giver.
That is, and that's a classic one.
You made a mistake. You made a mistake.
Is it
Stop
true?
bothering the courts with that crap.
Some advice for some of us still single men. Is it true that it's 3 months of pay? Is that what you're supposed to put towards a future ring? I wasn't stressed in my household, but I heard somewhere along the way that the ring is supposed to be 3 months worth of your pay.
Well, it depends on what kind of pay you have.
yeah. Well, maybe that's
okay,
the point.
all right. Well,
Maybe that's the point.
Let's make the point now. Let's talk to Rob because Rob hasn't brought it up. Rob is married, but we're going to pretend he isn't. So Rob is going to get married and he's going to get a ring, and he's going to do 3 months or 6 months of pay.
As a business owner,
It could be it could be a very nice ring, right?
So you're dedicating 6 months of pay to this ring.
Yeah, 6 months. I'm going better.
6.
You'd get a nice ring then, right?
I would
That's what
think
the
so.
De Beers
Yeah.
want.
Now suppose.
Not to mention, I'm going to not be able to pay my bills. But go ahead.
Yeah, but here's a difference. That's what the point I want to make. If Elon Musk
That's a nice ring.
did
Elon Musk,
3 months of
Elon
pay,
can't be doing 3 months of pay. I mean, he's gonna be buying.
I don't think they have any ring worth. I don't think they have any
That's a very
diamonds
good
worth
point.
that.
You could buy a small country with that.
He may have. I don't know.
That's a good point, Mayor.
And hey, he's done it. I don't know. I don't know if he gives the mothers rings, but he's got 13 acknowledged. Is it 13 acknowledged and one in the question mark category, or 12 acknowledged and one?
Well, I think he has. With some of them, he has multiple.
Yeah, but the
kids.
number is.
Is
either
it? I
12
actually
or
don't know.
13.
Is it okay?
I don't know if the disputed one makes 13
Or 14?
or
'cause
it's
he just,
14.
Because he also had another one since then, or they announced.
Oh, and that's what we know
No,
about,
no,
too.
he has a pregnancy since
yes,
then.
yes. Okay.
Alleged. Did he acknowledge it?
Okay, I believe so.
Well, you've
We'll
heard
have
of
to
these-
catch up with this.
You've
I-
heard of
maybe-
these guys that they like some of these sperm bank donors with hundreds of children.
Really?
Yeah, well, like some doctors who collect the specimens at the bank will sometimes replace it with their own
Oh,
out of some weird quirk, and then they'll end up with
a bunch of kids out there.
like hundreds of children.
Well,
Gosh,
these mayors went before Congress, who I just maybe just don't know enough about the law. But if there's a federal law that says you're an illegal alien and you're the mayor of a city and you assist the illegal alien to evade federal law, is it really hard to figure out that's a crime? Now you say, well, the city and the state have a statute that says you don't have to do it. But the Constitution has a provision that's called the Supremacy Clause that says you do. So how do we have sanctuary cities of this type? When I was the mayor, there were certain protections that were offered to illegals. Now, there were 10% of the illegals then. You could engage in the generosity of this. Also, it was true, not true today, that the illegals then produced considerably less crime than the naturalized and born here Americans, because it was a different complexion of citizen, meaning it was citizens who came in here largely for jobs and had to face a system that did some form of vetting. At times very good, at times very weak. You didn't necessarily know which one, and even the weak ones would keep it down. Now, although the press doesn't want to tell you this, what Biden did was completely extraordinary. It was nothing like anything we ever had before. Nothing. He just let everybody come in. Even the vetting that was done was perfunctory. Chinese, 4 questions. What could you possibly find out about a Chinese guy, particularly if he's coming in here as a spy? It's going to help you with 4 questions. Do you work? Yes. What did you do? I was a guy who swallowed jewelry. I was a guy who swallowed jewelry. And
business.
are you a member of the Communist Party? No. And what's your favorite sport? American baseball. American baseball.
Baseball.
American bullball.
Football.
What else?
Baseball,
Football.
apple pie.
Football.
Baseball, football, apple pie, Chevrolet.
No, I don't think the guy is going to come in and say, "My name is Shunwan Lee. I am personally selected by Xi Jinping to try to infiltrate your rocket program. I have 4 PhDs, and I've got a group that have been coming in for months that have set up a counter a group that can mirror your group. And we have a nice third generation Chinese guy that we reached through our police here who has an in to your, and we're going to take your whole effing program from you." What do you think? You think the Chinese guy is going to tell you that? You think the Chinese will send people to do it? If you don't, get the hell out of government or collect your money from the Chinese. So the mayor showed up. First of all, Adams had to go through the extraordinary embarrassment of being alleged by his Democrat colleagues to be engaged in a quid pro quo with the Trump administration, that he was going to enforce the laws because they're going to let him off the hook. Now, I do not believe that that's true, having talked to everybody involved. But even if it is true, it's not illegal. If that were illegal, any number of plea deals that federal prosecutors make that are very good ones couldn't be made. So you say, well, what are those? Well, there are quid pro quos and plea deals all the time. One is, we'll take this plea at this level if you testify. And if you don't testify, you'll go to jail forever. That's a quid pro quo. Well, you say, no, well, that's a quid pro quo to achieve something in the criminal justice system. This is a quid pro quo to achieve something in political realm. No, it's not. Yeah, it's a quid pro quo so he will enforce the law. It may have political ramifications. You may conclude it's political, but he's being told, we'll drop your charges if you stop assisting in the violation of federal law. That happens all the time. You want a big case? Spiro Agnew. I can give you hundreds of smaller cases. Sometimes we'll drop your case if you participate in catching the person. We trade cases for things that are of more value to help the criminal justice system and society. So if this trade took place by the U.S. Attorney's Office, it's no different than one the U.S. Attorney made a week earlier that has come out. And this phony value, whatever the hell you want to call her, poor excuse for a lawyer, wrote a letter saying how terrible, how unprecedented it is. What is she, a child? Never been in the U.S.? Unprecedented? I can't count the number of deals I made like this. And I can't count the number of deals I got made like this that I was praised for. As you would be praised for getting a mayor. I mean, so you're giving away a case on a mayor. By the way, it was a shit case. And what you're going to get maybe is 100,000 criminals that get pulled out of New York, both now and in the future. And you bring him around to it. It's okay. Life is not all persuasion. A little force is necessary. So the phony Democrats made it appear as if this was somebody named California Representative Robert Garcia, probably a poor excuse for a congressman. I'm sure he didn't stand up and clap. And definitely listening to him, I don't know if he's a lawyer or not, but if he is, time to give the law degree back. He got cheated.
Probably went to
Then
Columbia.
there was, of course, the star of the hearing, Cowboy Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson is not the Mike Johnson who's a good guy and a great American and a patriot. He's a jackass from Denver who's gotten lots of his citizens killed for nothing. As a former mayor, I would say he's somebody I'd rather not meet because he disgraces the office of mayor, as I've done on occasion, not met some of these people because it makes me want to vomit when I think about him. This guy invited the illegals to come to his city, much like Adams did, but he changed his mind about it. He said, we're going to be better than New York. You're going to have everything. You're going to have money. You're going to have houses. He threw his homeless out, threw his veterans out, put the homeless in. Now, for some reason that he may not have understood because he's not that smart, or he may have understood and he is that ideologically warped, somehow a lot of the worst came to Colorado, called Tren de Aragua. So Tren de Aragua had gone to several major cities. They targeted New York and Los Angeles, of course. And they had this concept that they needed some middle America hideaways so that they could almost like safe houses and safe zones. And here they were in Denver. They were overloading Denver, and they started looking out in the suburbs. They found a couple of suburbs, the biggest one being Aurora. And they went into Aurora, and they ended up being like right away 20% of the population, 25% of the population of Aurora. A big incident broke out there where they broke into a house with guns. They were arrested and identified. They were then connected to crimes in New York and crimes in Washington, in Los Angeles, and crimes in Texas. And all of a sudden, somewhat with the help of Ted and me, this was brought out. And what we do have is the fastest growing organized crime group in history of America. They're already in 12 states with a big headquarters in this state because they are, this guy for the longest time even denied it. I'm not sure he still admits it. And his mayor is as big a fool as he is. That's Mayor Feliz Navidad, who, denies that this is going on while his people are getting killed. And this guy has offered a Homan that he's going to stand at the walls of the city and you'll have to arrest me first. Now, he should send the mayor kind of a description of the address of the walls of the city. I've been to Denver many, many times before when you could go there without getting marijuana in your hair and also taking the risk that your brain would get deteriorated from smelling all the damn marijuana in the air. Since then, I don't go there very much. But in any event, they don't have a wall, I don't think. So the mayor is going to have to be a little more specific, unless he's being cute. Exactly where does he want to get arrested? Because Tom Homan said, look, me and the Denver mayor, we agree on one thing. He's willing to go to jail. I'm willing to put him in jail. I would like to see that. I'd like to see him taken off to jail, like some of those Southern governors had to be taken off to jail when they wouldn't comply with federal law. This is no different. You wouldn't know that from the party of slavery, though. The reason that worked was because federal law is supreme. Supreme when there are orders with regard to violation of civil rights, and they're supreme when it's orders to comply with immigration laws. Now, 4 states actually operate under state and city laws that forbid police from cooperating in ICE: Denver, Chicago, Boston, and New York. Democrat, 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 Democrat. Crazy Democrat, crazy Democrat, crazy Democrat, crazy Democrat. Corrupt Democrat, corrupt Democrat, corrupt Democrat, corrupt Democrat. That's what they all have in common. Now, you say, how can they refuse to cooperate with federal laws when the United States Constitution is explicit as hell that federal law is supreme? They do it because they're criminals and they don't get arrested because other Democrats protect them. Business owners in Denver, I read from one. This is a gentleman named Braxton Blakeman, who runs a shop called the Colorado Artisan Center. Sounds like when you run a Colorado Artisan Center, you're probably not a Republican. I don't know. But here's his view. The streets are definitely running rampant with crime. Thank you, Mayor Jackass Johnson. Johnson said that the migrants tend to engage in crime less than Native Americans. That's 20 years old, Jackass. It's a different form of migrant. You want to try statistics in your small pea brain? 60% of the crime in Queens 2 months ago was done by illegal migrants. The crime rate in New York, which is down slightly, credit to not only the mayor, but the excellent police commissioner. I've become convinced that he picked a good police commissioner. I know police commissioners. I can evaluate them in a month. There's a damn good police commissioner, and she's got crime down a little bit. She got it down. I don't care. That's how you start. A little bit. She is fighting the illegal immigrant. If the illegal alien weren't there, like just just do the numbers for a second. 60% of the crime in Queens are illegal people brought in here by Biden. If they weren't here, wouldn't crime be down in Queens unbelievably?
In a state that doesn't want to help her. Right?
Oh, the state wants to help bring them more in.
Right.
And then you got Governor Hochul Pochul. Well, she doesn't know what she is doing at all. Here's another one that's really interesting, but this is a matter of evaluating human choice and how you feel about it. A convicted double murderer is set to die by firing squad in South Carolina. It'll be the first execution of its kind in 15 years. Brad Sigmund, 67, personally requested the unusual punishment, fearing that the electric chair would burn and cook him alive. He also rejected lethal injection because he heard that it took 20 minutes to die. So he became the first South Carolina inmate to choose the new firing squad method of execution. And the first one to be executed in the United States by shooting since 2001. He's going to get strapped in a chair. They'll put a hood over his head and a target placed over his heart. And 3 volunteers will fire at him through a small opening about 15 feet away. Now, what did he do? You say, oh, isn't that a shame? A shame. In 2001, he used a baseball bat on his ex-girlfriend, smashed in her brains at Barbara's parents' home in Greenville County. He smashed his girlfriend. He smashed his girlfriend's head in with a baseball bat. But notice, he did it in 2001. It's taken us 23 years.
I was in 5th grade. I was in 5th grade when this happened.
They got a good run
24 years?
for a brutal murderer.
24 more years.
Yeah, in which definitely he's being framed. The cops lied. The evidence isn't true. The fingerprints aren't mine. The DNA is not mine. They want to frame me. What's the reason? They just don't like me. And it doesn't provide us with what I'm sure is there. I'd be shocked if it wasn't, which is a rap sheet that shows you had the justice system worked, he never would have been there, because this guy had to have committed a lot of crimes before that one.
Hold on a second.
Well, what's he claiming? That somebody else did it?
He's not.
I want to get this right,
He
man.
may have confessed.
I want to get this right. Sigmund, this is Brad Keith Sigmund.
Yeah.
When his girlfriend of 5 years broke up with him, he went to his girlfriend's house and killed her parents, David and Gladys Lark, in their
Not
home,
her.
hitting them each 9 times with a baseball bat.
Well, this may be.
He then kidnapped his ex and shot her once after she jumped out of his speeding car, but she did survive.
She survived, but the parents were dead.
Holy smokes. Boy, but he's really trusting. Who are these volunteers? Who volunteers for this role of shooting Mr. Sigmund?
I would think. I would think
State.
Well, I would think any relative of theirs, right?
Oh, really? You're not kidding?
It is my aunt and uncle. I'll show up.
Yeah, but that's what I'm.
I
The
volunteered.
volunteers.
I volunteered to execute Bin Laden. I asked.
The current president would probably let you.
President Bush put his arm around me and said, "What can I do for you?" The first time he saw me after 9/11, I said, "When you get time to execute Bin Laden, I want to be the one to do it. I think it would be good for the people of my city. It'd be like a release for them."
Right.
Now, I wasn't so off. Remember when he was captured and killed? They had a great celebration on Times Square, and everybody said, "You shouldn't celebrate a death." And I said, "Yeah, right."
You kidding me? Yeah. Don't even
Yeah,
start with that.
right,
I
yeah.
didn't. Well, that's a whole nother story. I don't like what they did with the body afterwards. But we don't have to go there right now.
Well, I can explain to you why they did it.
Okay.
Because it would become a temple, it would become a tomb, it'd be a new Mecca. They'd all be coming there to honor him and glory him. And So now you tell me, go find the bastard. That's
Smart.
why they did it. It wasn't a bad idea.
They should jettison them into space, I think, in the future. Elon Musk should come up with rocket-powered coffins.
No, that's too that gives them too much
Yeah.
like posterity. Like people would probably pay
People would
that.
sign up to do that.
Yeah, I feel like billionaires probably already do that.
Even though it was Obama, and there might be a tendency to disagree with it, it's a pretty shrewd way to do it. Just throw them in the.
Yeah.
But at least show them to
That's like
a
the
few
old
more
days.
people, right?
What?
Show them to a few more people, right? Like
Proof that he's dead.
Like who saw him? Like I didn't see him. It seemed pretty like expedient to me. The timing.
Not
was
not
good for
yeah, not that
Obama.
Stephen or Ted needs to see it, but
He's not around anymore. That's a pretty good indication
Right.
that he's dead.
yeah, for sure, 100%.
I
100%.
wouldn't. And if you throw, if you you can't burn them. I think it's against Muslim law.
I would have burned that
I
body.
don't think you.
well,
I
If
don't
you want to
think-
get rid of the body, I would have burned that.
Like being a
thing.
terrorist is against my country's
But you know,
laws.
maybe the only thing it deprived. What you're saying is it deprived us of more universal recognition that it was the right guy.
I want his dead body.
There was
a picture of it.
probably no particular evidence you would get out of an
Sure.
autopsy of him.
Yeah.
Although you might want, I'd like to take his brain and see what the hell goes on in it. I mean, do they have some? I mean, like for example,
Yeah.
this drives me nuts. Do they really believe in the 72 virgins?
They must get a couple that are
But-
real sick
I
in the
think they
head.
do.
All right.
Some do, some don't.
Okay, throughout humanity, and even the left wing trans athlete advocates can't dispute this. Roughly 51% of the children born are female, and 49% are male. It's actually closer than that, but it has something to do with the way the XX and the XY chromosome works. Slightly more females are created than males. Slightly more. Now, it would make sense actually that it should be a lot more than slightly more if you think of nature, because men can inseminate ad infinitum, and women can get inseminated only once every 9 months with some time for recovery.
Yeah.
Once every whatever. And human females do not produce, 9 babies like a dog or a cat,
Oh yeah. At
or
one
like
time.
an alligator, 25. So there's a bottleneck. If you're creating a species, there's a bottleneck, and that bottleneck would be overwhelmed if we had more men to take care of the women that don't have men, and you'd have more babies. I'm just doing a logical analysis.
But let me
However, here's the point. We're equal. So how are you going to produce 72 virgins for every one man who's a hero? You're going to
that's a big math problem.
My one counter to that is that, and so I believe that God's love and power is infinite, and if in my concept of God, he could just create more virgins.
I mean, virgins that never, like special angel virgins.
Yeah,
But the math, that's
I
a
never
good point. The
thought of
math doesn't check out
the
here.
math doesn't check out, but I'm just
The
Well,
slight-
there are a couple of possibilities. People could share virgins, but then they're not virgins.
That's the end of the virgin.
well, that's like the quirk of what do they call it? Is it heaven? So maybe that's
Paradise.
the quirk. They're just
They,
forever.
they use paradise,
paradise. In paradise, they're
which
forever.
is also used in Christianity for heaven. I mean, we now use heaven more, but back in Dante's time, it was it was called paradise.
Dante's
And
Inferno.
yeah, exactly.
I
Huh.
mean, the best description, if you ever want to conceive of a synopsis of the Western concept of hell, purgatory, and
Dante's Inferno.
and heaven, other way around, hell, purgatory, and heaven. Read
Dante's Inferno.
one of the greatest poems
Or is that wrong?
ever produced by humanity, Dante's Inferno. And it is, I'm telling you, in a good English translation, it is without doubt one of the best poems. And it's a narrative poem. So it's partially poem, partially fiction, but it takes you through it, and it has a great deal of humor in it. It's a fabulous book by a genius of a man. And it describes the traditional view of heaven, purgatory, and hell. Now, sometime along the way, and we have to get Monsignor Plaka here for this. I'm trying to get him here to do a show with us. I have so many religious questions.
Mute.
I think the Catholic Church has decided that there is no biblical basis, which sounds a little more like Protestant churches, no biblical basis for purgatory. And this was a big, big disappointment to me. Purgatory in classic Roman Catholic, and I think Orthodox Christian theology is the mid-ground between heaven and hell. So one of three, under classic theory, which Dante was, remember Dante's 3 books is L'Inferno, il Purgatorio, and il Paradiso. So hell, purgatory, heaven. And he starts down in hell. So he begins down and he brings his visitor down to hell. And then they work their way through hell and they meet all the people in hell. In many cases, obvious people in hell, and in many cases, people Dante didn't like, or his other guy didn't like. Then they get to purgatory. Now, purgatory is for somebody who doesn't have to be condemned to hell fire forever. He was not bad enough to go to hell. He wasn't Adolf Hitler. On the other hand, he wasn't St. Teresa or St. John Paul II or the nicest guy in the neighborhood. So we don't know exactly the dimension there. It isn't like, okay, you're bad. How bad gets you into hell? And how less than that bad gets you into purgatory? And then you have to have some goodness about you. And then your time in purgatory is determined by how much time you need to expiate your sins. I love this because I always figured I wasn't good enough to get into heaven. And I was willing to spend any number of years in purgatory to get to heaven. And then as I got older, I began this sacrilegious thought that there could possibly be more interesting people in purgatory.
You were saying that.
So that if I was going to spend an eternity without absolutely pure, completely without sin people, which could for me be very boring. I mean, what am I going to do about my cigars and stuff like that? They'd be offended. I'd have to give them up. I figured there's a lot more cigar lounges in purgatory.
That's a very smart.
That I was willing to make a deal. Let's, just put me in purgatory.
I'll go there too with you.
I want time. I want to get out of there after a while because I like to see my parents and some other people that I really love who I know are in heaven. So I'm willing to, negotiate time with you. So I have a whole big case prepared for St. Peter. First of all, I have my good works. I believe with George Steinbrenner and Donald Trump, who were the greatest advocates of this that I ever knew, you should keep your good works silent. Do you know yesterday, Ted, if you were paying attention, that the gospel read was the gospel that guided Trump and Steinbrenner, where it said that if you reveal your good works on earth, there's no reason to give you credit in heaven.
I'm putting you in there too.
What?
I'm putting you in there too.
Yeah, well, I try hard. I try hard to keep my good works private.
What do you do? I'm
but
not going to say anything.
But sometimes I feel like there's a selfish purpose to it. I'm doing it because I'm a lawyer and I'm like thinking about building my case. Like, well, nobody knew that I did. A couple of them get blown on me. Oh yeah. Even after
talking about
years after, people come up to me and
Peter,
say,
what?
"You did this," and I tell them, "Okay, it's between you and me," and then it ends up in the local newspaper.
Yeah.
So I'm losing a few, but I still have a bunch.
You
So-
definitely do, yeah.
And I learned it in Catholic school. I never asked George where he learned it, but he was the biggest proponent of it I ever heard. And he had an impression on Donald.
On the president.
Yeah. I call him Donald now because way back when he was a young man.
Yeah.
And it really was a reaction by Jesus to the Sadducees and the Pharisees who practiced hypocritical religion. I'm praying. Look at me. I'm praying. You don't
Yeah.
pray. I pray. I'm holy. And then they would go and cheat everybody in the marketplace, or have a girlfriend, or have a mistress on the side.
You got a few of those in the church, right? Every
and
church got a
Jesus said,
couple.
you know,
like that.
something like, I'm paraphrasing, you have to listen to The Chosen, which is the greatest story about Jesus I ever saw. Jesus would say, okay, you got your reward now. Everybody's, you know, clapping for you. No more reward in heaven. You just got it. Or I just gave $1,000 to the child with multiple dystrophy. Good. That's nice. No credit in heaven. Keep your mouth shut. So now what I do is I have a big list and I know what they're going to hit me with. I'm not going to tell you. It'd be like when George Stephanopoulos asked me, Mayor, it's a Sunday morning. You've been enormously successful. Not that he would ever say, you've done a lot of good things for people, saved them on 9/11, saved them as mayor. They credit you with saving so many lives, with bringing down crime. What's the worst thing you ever did? What a shitty question, right? What's the worst thing you ever did? But God gave me a very quick mind, a lot quicker than that shrimp.
Yeah.
And I said, George, this is a Sunday. I would much prefer explaining that to your father in confession. And if you want, you can arrange that. The whole place doesn't know what to do. And then they start to laugh like crazy. Half of them know why. Half of them think I'm crazy. His father, a priest. I'm campaigning that day with Ted Olson, dearly departed Ted Olson.
God bless that man.
And we're going through Iowa. It was a great day of campaigning. I met so many great people. We ended up at night. We had to find the nicest place in Iowa for Ted to sleep because Ted liked the finer things in life. And there was no wine for him. And the head of the Republican Party went home like for 30 miles and found a bottle of excellent California wine. And we ate like hot dogs and Sonoma Valley wine or something.
Yeah.
And it was a great day. And all of a sudden I get a call in front of Ted, who was a fun guy. And it's George Stephanopoulos. And he's half funny and he's complaining to me that his day was ruined. I said, why did I ruin your day? He said, that stupid answer you gave. I said, well, it was an equally stupid question. Yeah. And he said, well, I got calls. How is your father a priest? What are you, some kind of a bastard? Or, you know, are you an illegitimate child? You never reveal that? I had to fight down some of your right-wing rags saying I've been hiding this all my life. I said, well, George, I'm going to tell you something. Because your party is so damn anti-religious, not many people know this about you. So you have been hiding it. So maybe there is some justice here. He said, you're being a prick.
Oh, wow.
Well, it's true. How many people know that Stephanopoulos, his father is a Greek Orthodox priest who can marry and who can legitimately have children. He's a wonderful man. His mother used to run the cathedral in Manhattan. Her boss was the primate of the Greek Orthodox Church, Iakovos, a great man and one of my biggest, strongest political supporters. And I would say I'd put him on a list of 5 mentors on how to practice politics. He was a damn genius. And although there are a lot of people who resent him, the Greek Orthodox Church wouldn't be in America without this great man, Iakovos. But Iakovos was a Republican. Most of them were Democrats. And Iakovos is the guy who went with Bush when Bush ran against Dukakis, because he said it's mindless if we're just going to vote for some communist Greek. I mean, I'd love to see Greeks progress, but we got good Greeks and bad Greeks, like you have good Italians and bad Italians. He would say to me, Mayor, if Tony Salerno was running for president, would you support him because he was Italian? I said, no. Well, he said, well, it's a different analogy. I'm not going to support Dukakis because in Greece we had a terrible fight not to be communist, which is anti-Christian. And this guy it looks like he wants to create a communist America. So just because he's Greek, sorry. So he ended up at the Republican convention. So the Republicans, the Democrats nominate the first Greek in history for president. That usually leads to a John Kennedy. And all of a sudden at the Republican convention, when Trump comes in, he's walking in with the Greek archbishop, who was the primate of the entire church in North America. And also a very imposing figure, a big, tall, good-looking man with his arm around him. He didn't say vote for him. And then when they said he was playing politics, no, I was just attending a convention. And it split the Greek vote.
Well, they say about today 180,000 Greek Americans in New York City, a lot of them in Astoria, Queens, 8th Avenue, Manhattan, Washington Heights. Does that check out?
Yeah, go ahead.
Does that check out as kind of where the Greek Americans?
No, not in Washington Heights. Astoria, Queens, for sure. You've been there with me in Astoria, Queens.
Yeah.
We've been to Greek restaurants there, and that's where my big pal, Peter Vallone, comes from.
That's right. That's right.
Although he's Italian, he represents a Greek community because it is a mixed community. Mm-hmm. And there is a fraternal connection between Italians and Greeks. First of all, unlike a lot of the immigrant groups that came to America, at first it was a certain amount of animosity because you're taking my space. The Germans came in first, they resented the Irish. Irish came in, they resented the Italians, on and on and on and on. Didn't happen as much with the Greeks and Italians. Yeah. Greeks and Italians they look like each other. Yes. They have very similar family values. Yeah. They have a different religion, not terrible, like different by this much.
I think the diet is similar too, right?
Diet is similar. Yeah, it is. The diet is
Mediterranean.
Very, very few Italians don't like Greek cooking, and very few Greeks don't like.
But they are different.
Yeah, of course they're different.
Different alcohol.
Different alcohols, but they're not alcohol. The Greeks and the Italians are not alcohol drinkers; they're wine drinkers, really.
Well, the Greeks, they'll drink a lot.
Yeah, the Greeks will drink some. The Greeks will drink a lot of cordial type liquor.
And ouzo.
Well, ouzo's a cordial.
Oh, but let me show you something we had on the campaign trail.
Ouzo's not scotch. Ouzo's like a cordial type drink.
Okay.
Mayor, look at this.
It's no different than our grappa.
Yeah. Mu alpha gamma alpha, make America great again. That was in Greek. We had these on the campaign trail this time around. See it?
Yeah, it's great.
In Greek, so had enough. We had a lot of supporters, a lot of Greek supporters. There were a lot of Greeks for Trump, a lot of Greeks for Trump.
So they are a little later in going through the transition to Republican that the Irish did. I mean, the Irish transition to Republican was probably delayed by John Kennedy. Yeah. And I would say even the Italian, Polish transition to Republican was delayed by that because all Catholics, whether you were Irish or not, were affected by John Kennedy running because the prejudice against an Italian president was real.
Catholic.
Yeah, against the Catholic president was real. Al Smith clearly lost because he was a Catholic. And Roosevelt ran an anti-Catholic campaign against him. And Roosevelt was anti-Catholic. Yeah. Very few Catholics in his administration. They distrusted them, they hated them. His next opponents from then on were all Protestants. Even Tom Dewey, who had an Irish name, was Scotch-Irish and Protestant. So Kennedy was more controversial than Barack Obama, because by the time we got to Barack Obama, we were almost sensitized into we should elect a black. Yeah. And then the thing that's amazing, that I always find amazing, is good or bad. Just a few years after a massive attack on America by Islamic terrorists, we elect someone with the name Barack Hussein Obama. I don't know what country that would happen in.
Yeah, nowhere else.
It'd be game over.
Yeah, I mean, and now I end up a few weeks ago going to Republika Srpska, and I find out that 2 of the killers of my people came from Bosnia Herzegovina, And for 30 years, we favor Bosnia-Herzegovina, and we are prejudiced against the Serbs who celebrated the election of Donald J. Trump.
Right.
Now, I was surprised with that one set of circumstances. I didn't know it. I was not surprised that my State Department was wrong. I do not believe my State Department has been right since the Second World War. I believe the State Department is the most corrupted part of the federal government and the most dangerously corrupted, because foreign policy cannot be watched every day. And it should be executed in the letter and spirit of the president's wishes, because he runs foreign policy, not a little anti-American, snot-nosed, poorly educated idiot from Harvard. So
I got a call coming in about Gamma, the Greek.
well, we're going to take a short break.
All right.
We're going to take a short break so we examine these, because we never know when we get such calls. And it does remind me, we are going through like a major discussion of how much are we going to change? Like, we have 2 hours, right? So we have 4. I know that my soccer time. Maybe we should make my soccer time real, but I like it that it's, sometimes you do 15 minutes and sometimes 30. Here's what I would like, though. I'd like more integration of the 7 and the 8. And I really, I've been doing this. We've been trying. I really would like some telephone time.
Yeah, we got to get back.
I really would like you guys to be able to call
We got to
in.
have a studio. We got to have something.
But even if we try it before we have a professional, we're going to show you a picture tomorrow night or the next night of what we have here, which I think is remarkable for the fact that we're complete jackass amateurs and we put this all together. You want to show a little picture?
I'm feeling good.
Come on. I love
We're
you.
good. We're talented.
We improved our picture over the last several. We tried
I
a
can
new.
give you a little tour.
There's Ted.
Oh, great job.
There's
There's Ted. There's some cameras.
There's some cameras.
Here's
Got camera angle.
I don't know if it's Pancho Villa or Chief Lightning Horse. One or the other. Show him Chief
Lightning Horse. In the
Show him
back.
Chief Lightning
Oh,
Horse.
where
He's
is
coming around. He's gonna
Come on, Chief.
This is what they're killing me about here.
Here, I'm going to give an award to a Native American Chief. First thing I want to ask you is, you have any casinos?
I have not.
Because we'd like to advertise for your casinos.
I should think about that.
No, but we don't advertise casinos. I forgot that.
In
right?
Florida.
Right.
I need some
Yeah,
income.
you have no
because
casinos, huh? Were you involved in any major battles? I mean, your ancestors, like
No, I ran.
little Bighorn or small Bighorn, or
I hid behind the biggest tree when the battles came by.
well, you look
That's why
good.
he's
You
still
look
here.
good. You're a good. We respect our Native Americans. One last question: do you think the Washington team should be the Redskins, named after a proud group of Redskin warriors, or it should be named after a former prophylactic called Guardian?
I think the
Oh,
only
Commander.
Commander is what it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
Commander.
The only reason why they changed it to a prophylactic is because they're virtue signaling miserable reprobates.
Yeah, miserable anti-American Marxist pigs.
Right. What was
Where
wrong with
Marx told them that you had to denigrate your culture and your society, which they did with the Cultural Revolution, and they did it here in America under the direction of the Democrat Party. You know, Chief, you're a very wise chief. You must have an absolutely
Thank you,
beautiful.
sir.
I want to be invited to your powwow.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Is there any signal we make, or?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get in trouble.
I got one. The only one.
Let's not do the signal, just in
I
case.
can't do the signal.
No, we like you
Save
know.
it for off
I
camera.
was just going to do
Trump-
the typical.
Trump-
No,
My heart goes
no.
out to you. My
They
heart
might
goes
say
out
it's a
to you.
Nazi, like poor Musk.
Yeah, Paul Musk.
Poor Musk went like this. It's a Nazi thing. I'm not.
Easy, Mayor. Easy. You're
I'm
getting
not
close.
doing that.
Yeah.
We have to take a full year to get ourselves out of this Nazi communist infiltration by the Democrats.
Yeah.
I mean, Trump has got us beyond most of it, but it's still going to take a year to clean this out. But
Okay.
Chief, you keep in touch.
Thanks, Chief.
This is
I will.
Chief Lightning Horse of the The Sea Caucus major
that
tribe.
sounds Indian.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
Sea-
it,
the
you don't
Sea
even need
Caucus-
to make it up.
The Sea Caucus tribe, and they are, of course, involved in a major lawsuit trying to claim Giant Stadium or Met Stadium or MetLife Stadium, which actually belongs to them.
I was gonna say, how you let New York City? Anyway. Well, what a
And then when they capture it, I will make a deal. If I like the mayor of New York and it's returned to being an American city as opposed to a communist city, I'll engineer a deal so that both teams are brought back into New York, and we'll have it under the control of the Sea Caucus tribe.
I like it.
Okay, and I'll make sure the mafia doesn't bother them.
Maybe tomorrow we'll.
That could be a good deal.
Right.
We're having a lot of fun tonight.
Yes.
We are.
Yeah, it's nice sometimes. You know, I hope you don't mind it. I hope you enjoy when we have some fun. We try to do it on relevant topics, not like stupid, you know, does Taylor Swift really love whatever the guy's name? Wasn't it great? I have to say, let's stick on the fun. Wasn't it great that she got booed and he got?
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't as good as the election, but it was pretty good.
Yeah, I liked it.
So China had the two stories about China that are somewhat contradictory today. And I do not want to take my focus off China because it's the one thing you should, if you could only focus on one thing, focus on China. It's the one entity with the ability to overcome us, unless we're really slobs and we continue to vote Democrat. Any reasonable administration, even the old Democrat pro-American administrations, can handle Russia. They can handle everything in the world. China is a puzzle. It could be, and I do not say this to relax any view you have of China. It could be a bit of a fraud, but it could be real. And I've always found, and I thought, you know, when America viewed Russia as enormously powerful, and we turned out they wasn't as powerful, I did not think that was a mistake. I think if you're protecting people, you have to look at it from the worst possible scenario. You have to be ready for the worst possible thing to happen to you and be ready for it. Because if you are, you'll be ready for anything, even if it isn't quite the same. So we are not going to dismiss China. I don't think there's any reason right now to dismiss China. So one article just today, the Chinese, let's see what the foreign minister. So the foreign ministry spokesman is not their public relations spokesman. He's not their propaganda spokesman. Does his communications have to come through them? Yes. But do they have more weight than just a foreign policy spokesman? Yes. Here's the statement. China warned it is ready for any type of war with the United States in an alarming escalation as President Trump's tariffs went into effect. If the war is what the Chinese, if the war is what the U.S. wants, be it a tariff war, a trade war, here are the dangerous words, or any other type of war, we're ready to fight till the end. This is not the head of propaganda. They're all propaganda, but not the head of it. This is the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman, Lin Jian, on Tuesday. I would write that down, put it aside. You get all kinds of crap out of China. And I read it all, I look at it all, and it gets summarized really nice in Epoch Times. This one I'd put aside. A little more serious, coming from higher up. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth responded to the threats, telling Fox and Friends the U.S. is prepared and doing everything it can to deter conflict with China. Those who long for peace must prepare for war. Respectfully, that is not a response. Respectfully, it was the best possible response. I'm not in any way telling you I wouldn't have done anything different than what Pete did. But what I'm telling you is we deflected it. We didn't confront it. Now, here is what I believe is true, and maybe I'll find out by asking the right people the right question. I have the time today to do it. Was it that?
Yeah.
And when we listen to this son of a bitch say that he's ready to fight any war with us, are we ready to say that we're ready to fight any war with them, which in a very short period of time would annihilate all of them? Only way to stop them. The only thing these atheistic, brutal, mass murderers respect is power, and more power. And we have lost a certain edge with China. I'm going to tell you my personal opinion, uninformed by having looked at everything yet, maybe have. By no means is it a hopeless cause. This is not anybody who concludes, well, China is going to overtake us. In the last 2 years, all those communist loving jackasses from the New York Post and not New York Post, please don't get angry at me. I was going to say Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, a few people, mostly on the other side. And then, of course, the big ones, WAPO and the New York Times. Now, Bezos is in a major war with WAPO, his newspaper, but their war is over economics. I'd like to see the basis of their war over China. That would say a lot to me that Bezos has become a real American. I like where he's gone on the economy and getting control of what I regarded as worst in the New York Times, the Washington Post. Now, they all retired. They all left. They called him a fascist and all the usual shit. But it's a good step in the right direction. But the big question is, can he overcome China? He's in a lot of businesses. China is very wealthy, and China buys our American billionaires. They buy them actual with cash, or they buy them with opportunity. The New York Times is owned by Communist China. You're not going to find a really, really honest article about Communist China in the New York Times. You're not going to see one on CBS. Their movie companies are controlled by China. You're not going to see it on ABC. You're not going to see it on NBC. Oh my God, the worst of all. You're not going to see it on CNN, and you're not going to see it on MSNBC, which has gone off on its own but gotten worse. You will see it on Newsmax. You will see it on One American News, and you'll see an influence of China on the Murdochs in Fox. They do not excessively spend time explaining to you the biggest threat to the freedom of your children, which is the Russian communist, not the Russian, used to be the Russian, the Chinese Communist Party. Deliberately. Rupert Murdoch knows it. And Rupert Murdoch knows exactly what he's doing. And Rupert Murdoch knows where he can sell more papers and websites. And Rupert, you're a far more wealthy man than I am. And possibly even smarter when you had a brain. I saw you the other week. It's gone. Don't fool people, Rupert. You don't know who the fuck you are anymore. But when you did, you were a hell of a smart man. You were a hell of a smart man. I'm not as smart as you, but I may have more judgment. And I'm not as easily persuaded out of my principles because of money. In fact, I'm never. And you are. You have served as a effing lapdog for China. Cut it out. You do believe in things. I know that. China wants to destroy everything you believe in. And the Post, you can't quite get your hands on because all the reporters there know it's bullshit. But the Wall Street Journal, you really got control of that thing. I mean, they're taking China's side on tariffs. Are you kidding me? Haven't you figured out yet that what you're saying about tariffs is you're creating a straw man and you're attacking it? That Trump is going to impose tariffs all over, tariffs. Do you have any idea of the practical genius of what he's doing? He's using tariffs as a weapon. Now, if you use tariffs as a weapon, you don't lose human life. So look at what he's achieved with tariffs. He told a long time ago, he said to Canada and Mexico, 25% more if you don't take care of fentanyl and we don't get even tariffs with you. Well, that produced, I think, over a period of time, a promise of and the actuality of 25,000 troops on the border, 100,000 troops coming up to the border, remain in Mexico. You got it right back after Biden stupidly did away with it. It has her trying to prove to him that she can take on the cartels. Meanwhile, despite her and despite her anger and the anger of all the pro-cartel people, because they know the cartels runs her and China and Mexico, they declared the cartels a terrorist organization. That means we can look into any bank, including Mexican. We can look into the Mexican government. Who's supplying the cartels? Who's getting money from the cartels? Now, are we doing this just because, we're against drugs and we don't want marijuana? Now, I know where I am on that debate, but I also understand that debate is on a much more questionable topic than the one I'm going to present to you. We're doing it for a really simple reason. Those bastards have been uncontrollably releasing into the United States a poison pill called fentanyl, and they're improving on it. They've moved into another level of synthetic drug that I'm not even completely aware of. And here's what happens. So when people died of overdoses in the United States, they were taking too many drugs. Now, some kid buying marijuana can be dead in 2 minutes because they put fentanyl either on purpose or very often by mistake in marijuana. You have to have seen the way they do it. They don't put these drugs together in an Eli Lilly factory under FDA controls. And even with that, Eli Lilly doesn't know, they're sitting there in a freaking cave with dirty hands and snot. And they're putting this stuff together for you. And with fentanyl, it's a microscopic examination of how much you put in. So now you want to put a little bit of fentanyl in the marijuana because it's going to boost it like that. And there's a real competition now, particularly with illegal marijuana, for stronger marijuana. Something I predicted 15 years ago. Every place that has, the whole theory was, make marijuana legal, will cut down the marijuana smoking. It's gone up 3 and 4 times, every place they've made it legal.
Now they're poisoning it.
And it's given organized crime the ability to try to offer much stronger marijuana. So it's moved us into extraordinarily debilitating marijuana by making it legal, because that's how they compete. So now they go buy marijuana in the local Colorado store and they get shit. And then they go out on the street and they get powerful stuff. Now, they want to make powerful stuff as cheaply as possible. You don't make it with marijuana. You slip in a little synthetic drug. Now, you slip in just a little synthetic drug, maybe, just maybe. It's not going to kill you. Sure as hell going to do fantastic damage to your brain.
Absolutely.
But there are more than a few marijuana buyers who might be considered somewhat benign drug users who have died of overdoses. So when you hear an overdose, please, like these stars whose kids die of overdoses or whatever, you can't be sure you've got a real big drug abuser there. You could have a second, third, or fourth time drug user. When the kid goes out to get his first marijuana, there's no guarantee there isn't fentanyl in it. Now, you say, well, why would drug dealers do that? It'll cut down on their trade. Way behind all this is the Chinese Communist Party. The fentanyl comes from them to the cartels, already to enormously sophisticated organizations operating at a level of greater expertise than most lazy federal agencies. The Mexican cartels used to bring it in and hand it over to American drug dealers. That stopped 10 years ago. They now have their own network in America, every city represented, Mexican cartels, which deal directly with the Chinese. It comes in and it gets distributed to the specific places they want it to go. Most of the fentanyl comes in undetected. Fentanyl comes in the large spaces between our border points, so you never get to see it. And when it gets there, it's used to maximize profit, with some concern about death, because they don't want death to like get it completely. But they get themselves a nice average killing of 70 to 100,000 young men in America per year. Think that's preparation for war? Of course it is. If you didn't think that COVID-19 was preparation for war, it really is sad, because American politicians got paid money to lie about that, and you just did it because you're stupid. COVID-19, they got rid of over a million of us. Fentanyl per year, 500,000. No skin off their nose. They don't have to sacrifice any troops for this. They don't have to sacrifice any Navy for it. It's like a bonus. They're hollowing out America before they take us over. And if we don't tell the truth about it to our people, we're not going to get ready for it. And that's what we're here for. That's what we live for. That's why we have a show. And that's why you should watch us. And then you're going to find a lot of people who support us and a lot of people we support. We're not the only ones. But I really do think, I feel bad saying it, I think we do it the straightest. Or I think we go out of our way to make it understandable to you as best we can. So there's just to demonstrate at an early stage that you voted for the right president. Average number of people coming over the southern border under Biden per month was 15,000. Average number in January, 393. That's a different world. That's a different world. On tariffs, will you please calm down? He used tariffs before. We had the strongest economy in America, which will let him use tariffs. He's already gotten 15,000 troops in Mexico out of it. He's already got Remain Mexico back again. He's already got the president of China like this. And dumb Macron's only around for a day or two more, and he's already brought military down there. Now, they're going to have to be under the command of a man or a woman who is like a man, but at least they're there. In the case of Honda and two other auto manufacturers, already the threatened tax on China, on Mexico, has moved to, and I think this week you're going to find out, 3 major manufacturing automobile plants from Mexico, boop, to America, boop. Prices haven't come down the way you want yet? Give it 6 months. Saudi Arabia, a couple of $1 billion invested in the U.S. North Korea making the most advanced chips in the world in America, in Alabama, with 5 new businesses. When do we see this kind of growth? Maybe never. So as Zelensky fiddles, Russia is taking smaller and smaller parts of their, like grabbing even more territory. And it is a sin for anyone to die in Ukraine right now. They should reach a ceasefire. Trump could demand that Russia do it, but the little creep's got to do it. And he's got an awful lot of crooks around him who want this war to go on forever. He's already said he wanted to go on forever. Then he changed it. War goes on forever. They get billions forever. They don't really give a shit about their people. They never have. You cannot be a Russian oligarch and care about your people because you stole money from your people. So there's all this talk about China is all ready for taking on America. I'd like you to read the article in the Wall Street Journal today, which is the first good article in the Wall Street Journal in 5 weeks. And it says, China is severely worried Trump will win showdown. We'll go into those details tomorrow night because there's another article coming out tomorrow to extend this. We got a president who doesn't lose. We got a country that doesn't lose when it's motivated correctly. It's being motivated correctly now. And they're proving every way they can that they were a terrible historical mistake, maybe the biggest we've ever had. So keep watching us. We're going to keep you on the right track. We're going to warn you against all of the misinformation you get, which some days we aren't able to warn you of all of it. I wish maybe we should have a newsletter where we can do that. I just want you to know what's happening to you, how they are desperately trying. They're in the last stages of trying to brainwash you. It hasn't worked so far.
Not working. Right.
But they're not going to give up yet. So we have to be vigilant. So we're going to say goodnight now. We're going to pray for the people of Israel and for the people of Ukraine. We're going to pray for the people of Iran. And over this weekend, there's a big Iranian rally in Washington, which we're going to be talking about quite a bit tomorrow. I will be speaking at it in Washington. You know how much I hate going to Washington, but for my people who want to be freed from the Islamic Republic of Iran, I would do anything. So we'll be there, and we'll be talking with our friend Ali Reza tomorrow about it, and the real possibility that we get a big victory there. So pray for us. Pray for President Trump. He's doing such a good job. And God bless America.
Yeah.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. but a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve.